The storm came down in hard, slanting lines that blurred the hedges and hammered the gravel drives of Briarstone House, the mansion's limestone. Facade threw back a pale glow, every window a rectangle of warmth against a sky stitched with lightning. It was the kind of place people drove past slowly. Old money, careful gardens, a life behind gates. Beneath a wind-bent cedar just beyond the portico lamps, two figures sat pressed shoulder to shoulder. An elderly couple. Their coats were soaked through. Rain braided the woman's grey hair against her cheek. An open case lay at their feet, its latch sprung. A spill of thin paper and cloth darkening in the wet. Photographs ghosted by age. A bundle of envelopes tied with twine. A knitted scarf that offered no defence against cold anymore. Ronan Vale swung his car door closed and stopped dead in the wash of the headlights. The owner of Briarstone was a man given to decisions, not hesitation. Tonight he hesitated. His polished shoes sank slightly into the softening gravel as he took in the scene, the man's trembling, hand wrapped around the woman's, the way they sat, as if the tree itself were the last thing holding them upright. "Sir?" called a guard from the archway. Ronan lifted a hand to hold him back and crossed the drive, rain seeping down his collar. "Hey there," he said, voice low. "I'm Ronan. Can I help you get out of this weather?" The man blinked up, eyes a pale, startled blue. We're fine," he managed, though his lips were the colour of slate. The woman pressed closer, her fingers tightening around his. Ronan crouched, ignoring the water that wickered into his suit. "I've got dry towels, a fire, hot tea. That's not nothing on a night like this." He glanced at the case and, carefully, eased a photograph away from the puddle. A young pair smiled up at him from some long-ago summer, barefoot on a pier, all sun and promise. He felt something old shift inside him. He'd once known nights that tasted like nickel and worry. A mother counting coins at a kitchen table, a father asleep in his work. Boots, because taking them off meant admitting there'd be another early morning just like the last. Ronan had buried those, rooms beneath contracts and glass offices, and the steady climb of numbers he could control, but here was a kind of ledger that didn't care for balance sheets. He stood and waved to the house. "Blankets, kettle, call Dr. Bell," he told the staff gathering under the arch. Then to the couple, "Come on, let's get you warm." They moved slowly, Jonah Mirek, he would learn later, with a stubborn dignity that made Ronan shorten his stride. Etta, jaw set, refusing to be carried. Inside Briarstone, heat met them like a living thing. Towels swallowed their shoulders. Steam curled from mugs at their hands. The doctor arrived, all brisk kindness. Vitals were checked. The housekeeper murmured about soup. Names came with the thaw. Jonah had once framed houses until his knees turned on him. Etta kept books for the bakery that closed the year the new road stole. Its morning customers. Their rental had been sold out. From under them when the landlord died, and the deed passed to a nephew who saw only numbers. Their children were scattered. Calls unanswered. Weeks turning into months. "We walked to the shelter," Etta said, eyes lowered. "There was a line out the door and no beds left. We kept walking, I suppose." Ronan listened. The easy explanations, the ones that made suffering a neat arithmetic of choices, fell away. You can try all you like to keep your world arranged, but lives are not spreadsheets. They are weather. They slept that first night in Briarstone's blue guest room, the one that looked out over the south garden. In the morning, Etta woke to a tray with toast and ginger tea. Jonah woke to a pain in his knees he hadn't felt in years because for the first time in a long while he'd slept, deeply enough to notice it. They said they would leave by afternoon. Ronan said there was no hurry. No one argued with the doctor's follow-up appointment, or the fresh clothes that appeared on a chair as if the house had been expecting them all along. What surprised Ronan was how quickly Briarstone shifted to make space. The staff learned how Etta liked her tea. Jonah took to standing at the library window, naming the birds he recognized, inventing names for the ones he didn't. In the evenings, after Ronan shut down his laptop earlier than habit allowed, the three of them would sit in the kitchen with the radio, low and the kettle rattling. Between stories, silence grew comfortable. On the third day, the housekeeper brought the tide-marked envelopes from the case, dried and tied anew. Etta smoothed them with a palm. "I kept everything," she said, half apology, half pride. "Receipts, letters, all of it. Proof we were here." Ronan thought of the proofs he kept. Charters, patents, deal memos in glossy folders. He thought too of Luca, his younger brother, a name he hadn't spoken aloud in years. The last time they'd been in a room together, their father's watch lay between them on a table, a thin gold circle, cooled by argument. Neither had taken it when they left. On the fifth day, when the doctor gave Jonah a list of meds and a thumbs up, Ronan drove out beyond the village to a lane he liked for its quiet. He parked outside a small white cottage with blue shutters and a fence that leaned like it had something to say. It had once been the groundskeeper's place. It had also been empty too long. He signed papers. He called a plumber. He stood in the empty front room and listened to the rain tap the panes. The cottage sounded ready. When he handed Jonah and Etta the keys, Etta covered her mouth like she'd been told not to speak in a library. Jonah rolled the metal in his palm and looked, for a long time, at the little brass teeth. "This is too much," he said. "It isn't," Ronan answered simply. "And it's not charity. It's repair work." He didn't try to explain to them that some roofs you patch with shingles and some with apologies and phone calls you've put off making. They walked through the cottage together, the kitchen window that framed the orchard, the bedroom just big enough for a bed and a chair and a stack of books, a cupboard that Etta immediately claimed for spices she didn't yet own. Jonah checked the back steps and declared them a tripping hazard, and then laughed at himself because there are worse problems than steps worth fixing. That night, Briarstone's lamps burned a little softer. Ronan stood on the veranda, phone in hand, and dialed a number he knew by muscle memory. It rang twice. "Luca," he said when the line clicked alive. Silence stretched, then broke. "Ronan." Words came haltingly at first, circling the easy topics, then finally stepping into the room they'd avoided for years. When they were done, no grand solutions had been found, but something that had rusted shut moved a fraction. It was enough for the night. Weeks passed. Jonah learned the names of the new birds, real and invented. Etta fed anyone who came within 10 feet of her kitchen door. The blue shutters got a fresh coat. Ronan still worked, contracts signed. Numbers climbed, but he went home by dusk more often, and some afternoons he drove the lane to the cottage just to sit at a small table and listen. One Sunday, a break in the weather let the sun drop its gold across Briarstone and the cottage and everything between. Ronan walked the path between them while the light held. He knocked once, then twice. "Doors open," Etta called. It was. There on the table sat a small tin box. "This is for you," Jonah said, sliding it across. Inside lay the dried photograph of 2 kids on a pier, the knit scarf, and a new picture. Etta and Jonah on the cottage step, wind in their hair, eyes bright, a future modest and entirely their own. "It's proof," Etta said, smiling. "We're still here." Ronan closed the lid gently. "So am I," he said, and for the first time in years, the word home meant more than an address.